And now we're going to use little scraps of fabric people sometimes refer to as leaders and enders, starters and stoppers. Here we're going to start stitching this block, and I'm going to show you how you can sew it using the tool, and you're not going to have to break your thread. We'll stick 2 little pieces of fabric through the machine. The first one is a leader, starter, beginner. This will go through your machine first. What this will do is this will start a process called chain piecing. If you have needle down on your machine, now might be a good time to engage it, and what that does is that will put the needle down every time you stop sewing. I'm going to look at my block and say, okay, this has 2 pieces and this has 1, so I want to stitch the pieces that have 2 first. So I'm going to put the 1 piece aside on each one. I'm going to take my rectangle, and this will be the square. The folded line is your diagonal line. You would have drawn this with a marking tool, or you could have done exactly how I did it. For an example, you could have pressed it in half a little more accurately than what I did. You're going to start stitching and put your point under your needle. The opposite diagonal will be run along the center line of the tool, and you just keep following that. To chain piece the tool, using the tool, you're going to stop a little bit before so you can butt the next piece up against the fabric that went already through. Okay, so I'm not drawing the line, I'm just butting this right up. And I will do this with all 4 purple pieces on one side. Okay. And you can see that's not exactly square. I cut off the little point, and that's okay, because it's going to be caught in the seam allowance. When the chain stitching starts getting a little bulky in the back, I might take a couple of clips just to get this fabric off. Now I'm going to start doing the red pieces because they only need 1 seam. And I will butt them right up behind the purple. See how quick this goes? When you chain piece and you use the needle down, this also prevents your fabric from getting caught up in a mangled mess under your needle. So now you have stitched all the pieces. When I'm done, I'm going to run the ender finisher through, and I'll cut these pieces apart. Once you do this, you want to make sure that you put the pieces back in the same orientation that you took them out in. Otherwise, when it's time to stitch, you'll be stitching in the wrong direction. One of the benefits about using a connector square is that you can be a little off. You see that that stitching is a little off. That's okay. I'm going to cut out just the center so that I have a background. Does it make a difference if you have 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch back here? No. Once it's stitched together and quilted, nobody is going to know what's back there. So you can finger press, or you can press with an iron. Since my fabric is so heavily starched, I will finger press. And you're going to do this to all your pieces. Make sure you check when you first start learning to do this. Fold the piece back so that you're cutting the correct end. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing for our purple pieces. But these are going to go back under the machine. So you don't add the second piece until you have cut this one from the back and you folded it over and pressed. Because what you want to do is you want to create a little 1/4 inch up here. I'm going to press this. So now I have 4 purple pieces that need to go back through. The ender has now become the leader. So I will randomly put these back through the machine. And again, I'm keeping the point in the center. And I still haven't broken my thread. It's going together quite quickly. And I'm coming to the end. So it's time to send through another small piece. This piece will now become the start of the next.